Hello once again, and you're welcome to yet another edition of Unfiltered Conversation on Cleveland TV. I remain Frank Kalide Mundia, and for your information, Cleveland TV is an online platform birthed with a vision to connect the world of tourism in Africa for the betterment of the continent. All right, today we'll be discussing the importance of investment in African tourism sector, and my guest is no other than the lady that has a strong voice, a strong say in the tourism industry in Africa, Miss Irene Ochem. All right, Miss Irene Ochem is the CEO, African Women Innovation and Entrepreneurship Forum. You're welcome to the program, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Franca. Thank you for having me.
Good to have you with us. All right, we'll start with this, your introduction. Please, could you please introduce yourself? Who is Miss Irene Ochem?
Thank you. Yeah, that's a good place to start, isn't it? Yes. Okay. So Irene Ochem, yes, I'm a Nigerian, born and raised in Nigeria, but I call myself a global citizen because I've been living and working and traveling across the world. And currently, I work out of South Africa and working across Africa, but living in South Africa. Anyway, so I am the founder and CEO of Africa Women Innovation and Entrepreneurship Forum, which I founded in 2015.
Right. You also have an affiliate which is called the WITH, the WITH. Are you also the founder of that organization?
No, WITH is not an organization. WITH is an initiative, a program, a project within the African tourism and hospitality sector. Actually, the acronym is an acronym. So WITH means Women in Tourism and Hospitality.
Oh, okay. All right, we'll talk more of that as the interview progresses. But let's look at the aims and the primary focus of AWIEF.
Yes, AWIEF is an organization, a women's economic empowerment organization, and our main objective is to foster the inclusion, empowerment, and advancement of women on the African continent. To do that, we focus on developing programs and projects to support women to start, grow, and scale profitable and sustainable businesses. So the vision that we want to see is an inclusive African society where the contributions of women are recognized, where there is equitable opportunities for women to run businesses and contribute to Africa's economic growth.
So presently, what African countries are members of the AWIEF as it stands now?
Yes, we don't have a membership. We're not a membership-driven organization, so to say. We're a community-driven organization, yes. So, but our programs, our support for women as entrepreneurs and as innovators, is across Africa. All African countries benefit. Women from across African countries all can benefit from any of our programs. And we have different programs, different ways that we support women as entrepreneurs. We can have specific sector programs, essentially for training for entrepreneurial skills, facilitating access to markets and facilitating access to finance, and also creating the networks, for women to leverage opportunities in the ecosystem. And then, of course, we also have our advocacy kind of a pillar, whereby we are a key advocating organization, working with governments and facilitating discussions and interactions so that there can be enabling environment and policies, mainstreaming gender, to be able to enable women, grow sustainable businesses. So one of our advocacy platforms is our annual conference. Okay, so every year since 2015, we host an entrepreneurship conference on the continent. It's a conference that has grown over the years to involve a lot of stakeholders and to involve a lot, sorry about that, to involve a lot of stakeholders in the entrepreneurial ecosystem to discuss the issues and challenges of entrepreneurship and what are the opportunities and how can we work together as partners to increase impact. We work with different organizations, both in the development sector, in government, and as private sectors. Our partner organizations, they go from the African Development Bank, USAID, GIZ, UNIDO, and corporates. We've worked with NetBank, we work with Amazon Web Services, and also for the program that we just mentioned about the AWIEF program, we are working with the African Union as a donor and partner.
All right. Are there criteria to be made to be part of the AWIEF programs?
Yes, the only criteria that you need to be part of the AWIEF, any of the AWIEF programs, is to be a woman on the African continent. Either you are aspiring to become an entrepreneur, or you are already an existing business owner or business leader, and you want to benefit from any one of our programs, either to upskill your entrepreneurial knowledge and or to access finance, or to access market, or to be part of the AWIEF community in order to leverage the network for peer-to-peer learning and also for interactions and partnerships here.
All right, we'll go to the main topic of this course, which is the importance of investment in African tourism sector. What is your view on that?
When you talk, you can't overemphasize the importance of investment in the African tourism sector, because the tourism sector is one of the important sectors that Africa can leverage, to develop and grow its economy. It's just as important as agriculture and manufacturing. But if you look across African countries, many of them, like Kenya, South Africa, Rwanda, Zimbabwe, Tanzania, they all have a great tourism opportunities. Kenya has been a tourism destination for the whole world for as long as the same way as South Africa. And this is a sector that contributes hugely to many African countries' GDP. So investing in this sector is just very critical, and more critical is empowering women, because it's also a sector where you have a lot of women operating at different levels of the value chain. So investing in the African tourism and hospitality cannot be overemphasized, and that investment goes across board. You are talking about growing the skills, investing in skills building. You are talking about investing in the infrastructure, because when you talk tourism and hospitality, you talk about key infrastructures like transport, moving people around the continent, air transport, and for example. And then you are talking about hospitality, the hotels, the restaurants and all that. They are all parts of the whole ecosystem of the tourism and hospitality sector. And you are talking about crafts and design, because that's also a very important part of the tourism and hospitality sector, and where a lot of women are operating, and very much at the informal level. So there is a lot, there is a lot of investment that could go into supporting tourism. The AWIEF project that we are running now is actually laying importance also on sustainable tourism, because sustainability is very, very critical for the survival of the African tourism sector.
I know you've said one or two things about improving this sector, but as an expert in the field, what exactly, let's get recognized there now, what do you think Africans, and let's say the government as well, can do to improve on this sector?
A lot of what can be done, they come at different levels. It starts with government, okay, making the right policies and putting the right regulations in place and enforcing those regulations, because it's one thing to pass a law, put policies in place, but it's another thing to ensure that those policies and regulations are duly implemented by whoever needs to implement them. So to safeguard the ecosystem, to safeguard the tourism sector, you start with government policymakers, then you take it also to the private sector, the operators in the sector, to ensure that they go by the rules. If you are, just to give you an example, the animals, that get killed and all that, if we kill all of them, there won't be any animals for tourists to come and see. It's just an example. So there are rules around there, but do we have, good enforcement and implementation? So it goes across, board. There is a need for partnership and cooperation between government, between the corporate sector, and between operators themselves. And then upskilling people, creating awareness, and creating knowledge opportunities for them. And these are all the elements, all the areas where the AWIEF project will be touching on.
We'll discuss the AWIEF project extensively as we progress it, but let's look at the concept, improving the entrepreneurial ecosystem. What does that mean to you? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, Franca. Improving the entrepreneurial ecosystem. When you say that, for me, as Irene Ochem, and for what I drive, the support for women to be successful entrepreneurs, what that means for me is inclusion. So first of all, it means closing the gender gaps in the entrepreneurial system. It means addressing the challenges, that women face, all the barriers that they encounter trying to start and grow businesses. And that goes from skills, so building their skills, upskilling them and reskilling them. It goes to making sure that they have access to markets for their products. It goes to making sure that they have equal access to finance, which we don't have. It's a huge gap there. It goes to making sure that the digital transformation that is covering everything, which includes also the hospitality and tourism sector, that women are carried along, so that the digital gaps, the gender digital gaps are bridged, are closed, so to say. So for me, improving the entrepreneurial ecosystem means inclusion, diversity, and ensuring that women and youth, are carried along.
All right, you mentioned one or two things about my next question, all right? But I still want us to itemize this so that for the benefit of the audience, you understand? Because at times when we talk lazy, some people might not be carried along. They won't understand what exactly you are trying to say. But let's break it down in such a way that everybody can be carried along, and which is what you just explained, which is the ecosystem entrepreneurial improvement. How does this relate, all right, to the development of the African economy?
Well, when you improve the entrepreneurial ecosystem, then there is more economic activity because you have inclusion. People who give examples of the gender agenda, trying to justify it or to, kind of give a business explanation to it. Somebody can give you an example like saying that you don't play with half of your team. So the African population, you have 50%, almost 50% women and 50% men. So if you have no inclusion, you are more or less, short changing yourself. You are shooting yourself on the foot. You are playing with half your team, and you can't achieve you are supposed to achieve. So when you have inclusion, what that means is that there is more economic activities going on the continent, the contribution of women, you have more growth, you have more contribution to African GDPs, and ultimately, there is more growth for African economies. So that's how it relates, and it's no other way. So Africa must include women and youth Africa is the youngest continent in the world right now. So when we don't have that inclusion, making it possible for young people and women to operate, economically, we are short. We are not, leveraging the opportunities that we have to grow the African economy.
All right. Now, the program WITH, which is WITH, you've said one or two things about it, but let's get to see the aims and the primary focus of the program.
Well, WITH is a project where we have 7 partners. It's a consortium of partners, and some of them are Europeans and then Africans. So we have the Seville Chamber of Commerce from Spain, and also Incoma from Spain. Then we have another organization from Italy, which is the Centro Studi e Iniziativa Europea, okay, CESIE, out of Italy. Then from Africa, we have us, which we are the Africa Women Innovation and Entrepreneurship Forum. We have Lagos Chamber of Commerce, and then we have another organization, EQUIP, from Malawi, and then one other organization from Uganda. So we are a team of 7 organizations that came together to put up this project. And the idea is it has different pillars, to it. It's a 2-year initiative that started in January this year, and we run till the end of last year. So we have pillars to it. So there is the entrepreneurial education and skills building part of it. So where we will engage with young women operators as entrepreneurs and as entrepreneurs in the tourism and hospitality sector to provide training. But then we provide training for trainers, what you call training the trainers, because when the project ends, we want to ensure that there is a trained population that can also continue to train people. So people who are experts or trainers in the hospitality sector, so we will also have some training courses with them to train them further, to upskill them. Then there is another pillar to it where we engage with government for policy making, for advocacy, which, as I mentioned before, is a very critical and important element in improving the entrepreneurial ecosystem. So then WITH is also a project that has some focus on TVET, on vocational and education, VET is vocational and educational technology. Okay, so we will also focus on that part. And then there is the dissemination pillar to it, where we make available the information toolkits on the WITH website for free access for people, a kind of an open source, material data that we'll make available to people, to the public, via our website, the WITH website. WITH is also a project for kind of best practice learning out of Europe. So because we are partners from Europe and Africa, so the idea also is for learning of best practice out of Europe, by Africa. So this is another element of the WITH project.
So the WITH project, the training for the WITH project now, is it an online something, or is it a physical training?
There will be some part online, okay, and then some part of it that will be physical. Currently, we are in the stage of engaging with stakeholders in the ecosystem, in the tourism and hospitality ecosystem, engaging with the stakeholders, and then we'll get to the educational part of it, and then we'll get to the dissemination of information and data part of it. And at the end of the project, we'll also have a conference, to talk about what has transpired during the project. And that will be a physical event that will be held either in Cape Town or somewhere else in Africa.
So how do one become a member of the trainer? How do you, so for someone that wants to come in as a trainer, how does he or she go about it?
Somebody that wants to come in as a trainer, those are the ecosystem that we are stakeholders that we are engaging with. All the person needs to do, please, to contact us, and we will, get the person involved in the program. We are looking for such people. We are currently in the process of engaging with all stakeholder players. So please, any person interested in WIEF can contact us. And yeah, and another thing that I would like to mention is that the tourism and hospitality sector, okay, would also be a focused conversation of discussion at our upcoming conference now. Like I said earlier, we'll be hosting the 9th edition of our annual AWIEF conference on the 9th and 10th of November in Kigali, Rwanda. So like you know, Rwanda is also a country that has a lot of focus on tourism. It generates a lot of revenue from the tourism sector. So we are going to have a session on focusing on the tourism and hospitality session. And we already have confirmed as one of our speakers, the CEO of Rwanda Air, who also happens to be the first woman on the continent to be the chairperson of the Board of Governors of IATA. So like I mentioned earlier, you can't talk tourism without talking about transportation, and including air transportation and safety and everything.
Security. All right, let's go over. So we are discussing Africa, and let's come in with the sub-Saharan Africa. How do you see the growth of the tourism and the hospitality sector in the sub-Saharan Africa? Are we doing what we should be doing? Are we where we ought to be? And are there more things that needed to be done to grow this sector? Let's just explain it.
Yeah, the WIEF project actually focuses on sub-Saharan Africa, okay, as a project. Sub-Saharan Africa, I did say before, has a lot of tourism opportunity, and it has been, and it continues to generate a lot of revenue for many sub-Saharan African countries. Others could develop it more. A country like Nigeria, we have a lot of tourism opportunities that can be developed. But there are some sub-Saharan African countries that are doing better in this sector than others. Examples would be Kenya, South Africa, Rwanda, Tanzania, with Zanzibar and all that. You know, others have the opportunities that could be developed, but there are a lot of barriers, you know, to developing that. One is investment into the sector. Second is safety, and third is the infrastructure.
All right. So, do you think there are roles the governments ought to play to help or promote your vision?
To promote our vision, the governments just need to make the right policies and drive those policies, you know, for implementation and regulate them. The job of government anywhere in the world is to make policies and implement policies. So then it's not the job of the government to operationalize, you know, the sector. They should leave that to the private sector. But there is need to have the right policies that guide the sector, that make it create the enabling environment for private sector to operate.
Yes, all right. Thank you so much, man. Let's get a final message from WIEF and also from AWIEF.
Yeah. The final message from AWIEF is to follow us, and I'm inviting you to our conference coming up now in November. Please do attend. It's taking place on the 9th and 10th of November in Kigali, Rwanda. It's going to be very exciting, and I would like to see you there. On the WIEF project, as we go along, I would also like to engage further with you to help us disseminate the information and the opportunities there.
We'll certainly try our best. Thank you so much, Ms. Ochem, for being my guest this morning, and we wish you all the best in your endeavors.
Thank you, Franca. Thank you very much. It's been a great pleasure. Thank you, Tolu.
Thank you so much. And viewers, we draw our curtain here for today until we come your way with another guest on this program. I remain Franca Hidemuga. Please do have a nice day. Bye.